And so for those of you who are just joining, it's Kyle from Arneo. Thanks for joining. It is just 4:30 now, and we are waiting for a few more people. So we'll probably begin in a couple minutes if that's all right with everybody.
Awesome.
How many are we expecting, Kyle?
We had about 35 register, so we're at close to half now. I know that Ermagine was going to attend, and if you don't mind, I'd like to wait until she joins. She was just finishing up another meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks everyone for your patience, appreciate it. And as I had mentioned in the chat box, feel free to introduce yourself. You can either unmute yourself or just type a little message in the chat box. It'd be great to hear from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sally, do you think we are okay to get started now? We've given a few more minutes for people to join, and we have 16. And those who are running a little bit late can join us later and catch up.
I think definitely.
Okay, great.
So welcome everybody. I'm Sally Berg. I'm the nurse practitioner, part of the nurse practitioner interest group, and I'm the chair on the team. And I want to also welcome Eric Staples today, who's the student liaison on the exec, and then also Hudo, who's the communications exec member. We also have Catherine on the call. She's joining us from the train station.
Yes.
And she's going to sound a little bit muffled today. That's because she's out in public doing physical distancing with her mask on, but we are able to hear her well. So I want to thank you to everyone that is presenting today and welcome you, and also want to welcome everybody who's on this call tonight. I do hope that the topic is informative and that you can also share this with our colleagues out there in the workforce, that we're trying to bring some shed some light on the topic and move forward as an exec in supporting this program. So we are going to hear a lot from Eric today, and he's sharing his expertise on the subject. And we can just move our slides forward. So I already did the welcoming. Okay, thank you. You've got the agenda open. So basically, we're going to try and stay to the time. We can probably catch up a little bit with my short introduction on the time and leave some more time for the topic. I just wanted to briefly mention from the executive perspective that we're still looking for a co-chair. And oh, I just forgot what the other position is that we're looking for. I'm having a little bit of a...
Sally, there is a slide coming up after this one that provides more details for the exec update.
Excellent. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. I thought I saw it there somewhere. But the other one that we're looking for, yeah, the finance, that's the position that we're still looking for along with the co-chair. And just want to say thank you to Janine, Patrina, Taylor, and Eric, who have recently joined for a 2-year duration on the exec team. So great news. We have almost full quota on that exec team, and it's great to have a full complement participating in a lot of the things that we're moving forward on and looking forward to. So as an exec group, we are looking at continuing to do these insider reports or webinars on a monthly basis for the most part. RNAO has agreed to do a couple of them as well. So we're looking for great topics. And if any of you on the call have any ideas that you want us to actually tackle, please let us know by reaching out to any one of us on the exec and let us know what topic you're interested in. That would be really helpful because we want to actually cater to all of you and help meet your needs. And of course, all of us learn in the process as we're looking at topics that are very pertinent for us in our field of work. Next slide. Okay, Catherine, I'll hand this over to you.
Yes, thanks so much, Sally. So I'm going to start with a brief background for the NP Mentorship Program and how it really came to be. So it was actually a direct response here at RNAO from a need that was heard at our NP Institute in 2019, where many novice NPs did express feelings of isolation and uncertainty as they are transitioning into the new role of the NP. Kyle, I'll have you go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because I've been involved in NP education since 1998. And if you look at the literature, mentorship is linked to successful role transition, and unsuccessful role transition is linked to the intention to leave the nurse practitioner role. We don't have a lot of literature about this in Canada, but in the United States, 27 to 31% of NPs intend on leaving their roles, and 6% intend to leave nursing altogether due to unsuccessful transition. In Canada, we have one study that was done by the Canadian Federation of Nurses Union that looked at NP role dissatisfaction, and this was linked to salary remuneration, 52%, input into organizational practice and policies, 49%, and professional development, the amount of paperwork that an NP had to do was tied at 47%. Next slide, please. So when you look at the literature, it really comes down to mentorship needs to start early when a nurse practitioner is a student. Ideally in the first semester with faculty who are teaching the core nurse practitioner competencies. And then once you're out in the clinical realm, either nurse practitioners or doctor preceptors that can influence your growth and transition you through their support and encouragement in how your role develops. Nurse practitioners who graduated and didn't feel well prepared, seemed to want more education, and they relied on their past RN experience to fill in knowledge gaps that they had. And this tended to be a cause for a negative transition into the nurse practitioner role. Next slide, please. So how to make mentorship work for you? Seek and establish linkages early to nurse practitioner organization and special interest groups such as RNAO and the NPIG. Also make linkages to experienced NPs, and don't be afraid to ask them about their experience as they transitioned into the role, and be a sponge for them. The choice of mentor-mentee relationship belongs to both of you, as it will encourage increase in your self-efficacy and self-confidence, which are strongly linked to role transition in a successful way. The relationship of mentor-mentee can be formal and structured, or informal and flexible. It's whatever works for the pair that are working together. It may be something that a new novice NP needs regularly, and then as that person becomes more experienced, doesn't need it quite on such a structured or formal basis, but the odd check-ins with somebody about what they're doing in their practice or what they're seeing. And ideally, this will assist with all the clinical aspects of NP practice and socialization into the role. Next slide.
Thank you, Eric. So I'm going to take what Eric had said and really relay it now to the NP mentorship program that RNAO and NPIG are currently offering. So there are a number of goals that are really driving this program. The first one is to facilitate role transition and role growth for both the mentor and the mentee. The second is to provide key resources to those NPs who are new to their roles. The third is to help foster network building for both the mentors and mentees. The fourth is to enhance quality of NP practice. And the fifth, of course, is to help support healthy work environments. Next slide, please, Kyle. I apologize for the background noise, everyone. Is it really distracting, Kyle and Eric, or is it okay?
Nope, it's fine.
Okay, great. So what function will mentors have? So mentors will act as role models, guides, teachers, and coaches, and they will provide leadership, patience, caring, and really loyalty to the mentees that they are mentoring throughout the mentorship process. Next slide, please, Kyle. And I'm going to pass it over to Hoodoo, who's going to speak a little bit to who should be a mentor and who should be a mentee.
Give me a second. Thank you. We basically talked about, who should be the mentor. And some of the ideas we came about was someone with the desire to share knowledge and experience. It can be a mentor. The person should possess, or the MP should possess, the ability to believe in the mentee's potential for success, be able to reflect on question, why do I do this? And why do I want to do this? So basically, like, understand the benefits of giving to the mentee, and doesn't have disagreement to the whole concept. Next slide. Who should be a mentee? Someone who would like to seek or explore resources from another MP to help you navigate questions, concerns related to MP role. So this is like anything, like no question is stupid. And this can be the simplest thing, like, I did my schooling through the US, and some of the major hassles I come through, like I had to come over, was knowing which medications are covered by the Ontario drug benefits. So I will, when I'm sending you scripts, I will send it the best of the best, but then the pharmacist will call me and say, hey, Huru, this is not covered. So it is like something as simple as that to, you know, critical resolving a critical case of a client, which has, you know, complex issues that you say, you know what, I know A, B, and C, and D, but I really need someone to consult with in regards to D. And some of the things I came across as a NAU graduate were like, you know, having someone who has like 3, 4, 5 different complex health issues that require treatment. And some of the treatments that is recommended for this is contraindicated for this. And like, how did you come about covering all the concerns without creating a contradictory results? Like something as simple as someone who has high triglyceride and high lipids, like which one do you focus on first? Like high triglyceride has its own impact. People who have alcohol issues, who have drug substances, and etc. So the medication that is really helpful with that might be not so helpful with the other. So those things, something like, you know, anything that comes to mind, someone that you have, that you can reach out, that you're confident with their clinical skills and say, hey, how can I navigate that? Someone in need of support or guidance, just like I said, of achieving your career goals. So maybe like, you know, you went to school for primary care, nurse practitioner, but now you're interested in addiction medicine, or now you're interested in like, you know, mental health. So how do I navigate that and take the knowledge I have from what I learned to a new clinical setting that I was not initially interested at? So reaching out someone who isn't an expert in that area can help a lot. Be able to reflect on questions, like I said, with the mentor, just, you know, going over. And always I value when I have my plan A, plan B, and plan C, and I just go through, you know, all of them with someone who has been in the field a lot longer than me. So basically not having any shame of asking questions, no matter what they look like, and having that confidence that that person will give you that support that you need without looking at you like, you know, where did she go to school? Like, you know, doesn't she know this? So next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Huru. So now we're just going to talk briefly about some of the expectations for the mentors and the mentees of the program. So as Eric had alluded to at the beginning of the presentation, at RNAO with the program, we are not strict and we don't ask you to enforce a certain set of relationship rules. Rather, we provide you with some documents and some tips and tools to be successful, but we really put the onus on each pair to establish their own individual relationship terms, taking into account whatever their unique goals and needs are. The time commitment, the frequency of interaction, and the duration of the interactions are completely unique to each pair. So I think it's great in the sense that the terms of the relationship are completely up to the mentor and mentee in each and every pair. Next slide, please, Kyle. So the expectations for mentors and mentees continued is, like I had said, there are RNAO provided resources such as the NP Mentorship Program Process, a relationship agreement template, and a program action plan template that we highly recommend to be used because it does increase the chances of success within the program. And as well, it creates some accountability for both the mentor and the mentee. However, again, not required, and it's completely optional. One special note here is that for mentors and mentees actually to join the program, you do have to be out of a nursing program, so you cannot be a student to join the program. You do have to be graduated, and as well, you do need to be an RNAO member to join this program. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is the process for pairing our mentors with our mentees? So we do actively seek mentors across a variety of practice settings and maintain a current database of interested and available NP mentors. So we are continuously engaged in that process. When we do receive new mentee applications, we make every effort to match a mentee with a current available mentor. However, we try to take into account the needs of each mentor and mentee, and so oftentimes the preference is to be matched to someone who's working in a similar practice area. If that's able to be facilitated, we of course will do that. And if we don't have a mentor available immediately that works in a similar practice area, then we will undergo a process to try and find one for you. Next slide, please, Cal. So I'm going to pass it over to Hoodoo, Sally, and Eric now, and they're going to guide you through a discussion really regarding the role transition that a lot of nurse practitioners experience when they start a new role.
So I can probably start. So really, what we're hoping to do is do a little bit of a discussion. So if you want to unmute your mic and have a chance to, share your thoughts. And the question I want to pose is, are you a new NP? And if yes, what are some challenges you have encountered during your transition into this role? And do you have a formal or informal mentor to guide you presently?
Feel free to either type in the chat box or to also unmute yourself and just join the conversation as you like. Thanks, guys.
While people are maybe unmuting and thinking, I see that we have a student NP just going into her IP. I lost it on the trail of messages, but I'm sure you're thinking about future opportunities as you come into the force. Or if there's anybody who wants to share of their experience as a new NP, you might not be a new graduate, but you might have some comments in this topic.
And I would think about the experiences you've had thus far. Who has sort of guided you since you've graduated, or has helped you along? Was it the employer orientation? Was it somebody in your organization that sort of took you under their wing? Like I guess we're getting at the next one. What are your perceptions of NP mentorship? Because it's pretty abstract of what it could be. It can be as simple as of just adjusting to a practice where there are NPs already and you're trying to fit yourself in. One of the biggest things in the literature was, and I'll go back to this, that it's a difficult transition in that you've left that RN role where you had a safety net. And now you're in a new world, a new reality. And this is where it's new. You're feeling a bit awkward about it. You're questioning whether, did I get all the experiences I need in my clinical practice to start? And that's where the questions start to come. Who do I need to go to, or who can I go to for a little bit of support? Is there somebody here in the organization that can help me? Certainly in the literature, nurse practitioners who went into organizations where there had been no previous nurse practitioner need to look outside of the organization to another organization where there is a nurse practitioner and learn from that person as a mentor to help guide you through that new system, because it's hard just to depend on what's happened there because they haven't had a nurse practitioner. So it's difficult to assume what their expectations are, what your expectations are. And so that can be a different kind of experience as well, which can be positive or negative.
Yeah, Shania made a comment. I hope that's how you say your name. You said that having a preceptor has been such a great support during your education. So when you graduate, you're hoping to have a mentor that would greatly help with the role transition. And certainly, as Eric's talking about the statistics, we do see that that is important. And sometimes it's a matter of you searching out a mentor, and sometimes it's not that easy, but certainly looking at for instance, if you're in a specialty field, going to conferences you might actually run into people. But we also have the NPIG Facebook that if you become part of our NPIG, you can actually post on there and say, hey, anybody here can have a commonality with your area of practice, and you can actually use that as a venue to reach out as well.
I think we have, I was going to respond to Shania as well, saying that preceptor that's been such a great support may be a limited term support once you graduate, and you may find another mentor after you graduate that takes her place once you start transitioning. And Teresa has a very interesting experience, which is very Canadian, that you end up in a place in a sort of a rural, remote kind of area, Kirkland Lake, and she made the request to ask for mentorship and was denied that. So she has chosen possibly not to go into that position because, so I would ask her, is there a formal orientation to that position in Northern Ontario, and what are they basing your role from? Would they accept that you are liaising with somebody else that we're going to talk about later too, about making this a little bit more available to nurse practitioners in terms of people available for a resource, for a shout out kind of thing, that a relationship maybe could be acquired through this NP mentorship in NPIG. So I know that that's a big concern of yours, Teresa, and I understand it. And definitely if you're not feeling secure not to have mentorship, but I would ask, are they willing to, that you could go outside of the organization for mentorship?
It's Corsita. And I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to my mentors. When I first graduated almost 20 years ago from my program now, I was by myself in a lot of ways because I didn't do my program here in Ontario. I did my program in the States. But at that time, the NPAO was part of the RNA, was an interest group, and I met with numerous NPs at that time, not the least of whom was Claudia Mariano, Dr. Michelle Acorn, Eric Staples. I met at first time was at a CNA event because I was encouraged to attend those kinds of activities. And you were right, all those events cause you to form a bond and a relationship with these people because you see them all the time everywhere. Over the years, I've been able to call on any one of those, my aforementioned colleagues, even just for a question about something that I might be considering doing or just even understanding what's going on now in the air. And one of the things that I have always admired and appreciated was I never felt dumb for asking a question, or even if it has been years, I still feel like there are people I can go to ask a question. And having those informal relationships have fostered great strength and growth in myself, because I feel as though they would always be there. Somebody is always going to be there to check me if I needed it. And that's helpful. So I myself, I am not physically on a job site at the moment, but I'm absolutely willing to be a mentor to somebody, whomever that may be.
Thank
well
you.
said. Thank you, Cressida.
Yeah, I kind of want to blend what Cressida and Hudo said. It's not actually just a new grad that needs mentorship. Hudo sort of touched on this. We tend to, as nurse practitioners, sort of sway into new areas of practice that leaves us a new beginner again. And really, I think it's any time that we're in an area where we're feeling not confident in our knowledge, there's always somebody else who's got more experience. And these are the mentors that we're looking for. And I think any of us at any point in our practice can become a mentee, which means we're not asking stupid questions. We're just looking for the best answer to support us.
I will follow with that. It is Hudu. like Teresa was saying, there is a lot of positions opening up for MPs lately, and it seems to be you're the first person of that kind to do that job. So there is no someone that you can formally mentor with or formally precept, like orientate with. You are the beginner of this job, and I did 3 of those so far. And like, you basically have to develop what it should be, but within that, that is where you need to reach out and say, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm planning. And there is a lot of autonomy comes with doing it, so because you are the first of its kind, and you could create that reputation and that guideline and that expectation of care that you would like to see to be done in the clinic. But at the same time, it has its own challenges because you have no one else to look up to. And in fact, like where I work right now in the clinical setting I am at, like all the psychiatrists that are looking at me for any medical related. So you become that person so quickly that everyone is looking at, and you yourself feel inside like, I really need someone else to look at as well. So it becomes like, it's not that you're insecure, or it's not that you don't know what you're doing, but it is good to have that comfort that if you need a clarification, if you need a confirmation, that you have someone, whether it is formal or informal.
So I'm wondering if there's anybody who can share about what their perceptions were maybe before this discussion about what NP mentorship is, and do you feel that it's a useful for either a mentor or a mentee, whether that's a useful role that you see in your practice?
I think MJ wants to say something.
Hi there, my name is Yvonne. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I was typing away and I thought, stop typing, I'll talk. I was going to say that I really appreciate the comments from Corsita, Teresa, and Hoodoo. And I've always adopted the philosophy that mentorship and menteeship is really lifelong. I think when we first start in any program, as you alluded to, Hoodoo, that, you know, there's this anxiety around, do I know what I'm doing? And even when I get into a situation where you're the only person there, you still really just jump in and use your leadership skills to sort of figure out what is it that I need to know and what is it that I don't know and where I need to get my resources. I think where I'm challenged is that even if you've been in the role for a while, that it really becomes challenging to really access the mentorship. So for example, we're in this forum right now, and I really appreciate Corsita's offer to be a mentor. That doesn't always happen. So you might say, seek out a mentor, attend conferences. I've attended a number of conferences, and I thought those are wonderful opportunities to make connections and to share emails, but there isn't really a process for that. And, you know, very few people are going to walk around the room. I mean, you might hear somebody say something and you might click in, that might be a person I need to talk to. And you may or may not get the opportunity to connect with them, and you leave the conference. And I feel like there's a whole bunch of people in that room that would have been a wonderful resource that I now don't have access to. And of course, there's all the issues of people wanting to share their emails, which may or may not happen at conferences. So I think you get in a group, you meet a bunch of great people, you think this would have been a great way to network, and then you lose them after you leave it. So I guess I don't have an idea right now, but I guess I'm looking for others' perspectives on, you know, how do you get connected? what I did in terms of my workplace is that I'm using, you know, my colleagues as support and mentors. But when you work, you know, I work in the community, so it's very isolating. If you're in, you know, a hospital or a clinic where you have them right beside you, that's a very different experience when you're by yourself in the community and you reach out, but you need an answer now. So it's creating, I think, sort of a network of support that I think is very challenging. So I came on this particular webinar to sort of really hear, you know, do people reach out to this committee and say, I have a list of mentees that are willing to help. These are the areas that they have their specialty in. This is how you can connect with them, because as a new grad, and even as, you know, somebody that's been in the role for a few years, I don't have access to that, and it's very isolating, I think. And you may not always want to access the people that you work with, right? Because you're also, it's a different kind of experience in terms of the questions you can ask and the relationships that you're trying to build. So there's a, you may not want to always connect with the people that you're directly working with to get your answers.
It's good comments, and I think you'll see we have a few ideas as we go through the slides that around resources available for nurse practitioners to link into.
Are there any other comments, thoughts? This is an opportunity to be able to share our thoughts and build on some of the great comments that we have. Certainly as an exec, we are wanting to take this program forward, like I said earlier, and make something of it. And it can actually look the way you need it to look. And that's what we need to hear from you, our colleague. Perhaps we want to move on, and there can always be more discussion later. The next slide, perhaps. Thank you. So Hudo, I wonder if you're able to walk us through this slide.
Yes, I can. Let me see if I can minimize this. What are the benefits of NP mentorship? Bodygrams for mentees. So definitely, like, this is not it, but this is some of the areas we talked about, and Todd will be a starting point for our discussion. So it will provide bridge, it will bridge the gap between novice NP, educational preparation, and the realities encountered during the transition to practice. And like all of you echoed, this is not just really for new practitioners. This is throughout your career. You grow and you go different places and you encounter different cases, and it is something that is lifelong. This will provide an opportunity to receive support, empathy, encouragement, and counseling, as well as a feedback, positive reinforcement, and constructive criticism. So like, I truly appreciate, and usually when I ask people questions or an input, I always tell them, tell me what you would do if you were in my case, because I don't want them to be thinking liability. I don't want them to be thinking, is this going to come back to me? And at the end of the day, as a mentee or a mentor, your decision, your practice, the decisions you make sit with you. You're basically seeking constructive feedback that can give you growth. And if you're always expecting someone to agree with you and always, like, you know, give positive reinforcement, that may lead to not so productive feedback seeking. So it is good to be open to both positive, not so positive, and the criticism, and willing to take. It accelerates productivity, increases job satisfaction, because instead of giving it up to something you really like, if you choose to have a mentee, a mentor that can help you propel along, you might end up to grow into that job to become the best place you ever worked. So this can provide like it can reduce your number of times that you quit a job and go to another one. And maturity, like Eric said, of people, especially MPs who quit positions, they quit because they felt unsupported, or they quit because they didn't have autonomy, or they quit because they don't feel they have the knowledge, like not the knowledge, but basically like, you know, they don't have the support they need to effectively function in that role. So mentorship is a relationship that facilitates professional growth, and in my opinion, I think personal growth as well, because when you learn to accept critical feedback, when you learn to accept not always getting your way, when you learn to accept, you know, people see differently, it provides you that a different perspective as a person. So like today you might be the mentee and tomorrow you will be the mentor, because you have experienced what it can give you and you're willing to give others. Next slide, please. Next slide.
I think I got it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Hudu. So if you are interested in becoming a mentor or a mentee, you can email me directly, cjewel@rnao.ca. Or if you just have any questions, you want to learn more, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you over email. And as well, if you're looking to access the NP mentorship package that has all of the tools I discussed earlier, like the relationship agreement template, then you can access that at this website here and download it and just really peer view it and see if it's something that does pique your interest. And like I said, feel free to contact me directly with any questions. Next slide, please, Kyle. And I'm going to pass this back over to Hudu now, please.
So informal MP mentorship, which I really like the name MP shout out, is it came about the idea of like, you know, having two options. One being the formal mentorship, where you are bear with someone who has the clinical expertise of where you are at and is willing to help you along. And then we thought about the other idea of having like I can't remember your name. One of the participants was saying earlier, to have a pool of resources where you can access people with different background, different knowledge, expertise within a safe zone that, you know, you can anytime tap in. So it is introducing the NPIG initiative, which we made to call shout out, where you can access experienced MPs who is willing and able to provide quick telephone support. So this could be telephone, this could be an email, this could be any source of communication that is possible. But what we were thinking is having basically all of us from all background listing our names and our professional expertise and clinical setting. And let's say someone has an addiction question, directly communicates with me and says, hey, I have a client whom I was treating for A, B, and C, but now I discover has D and F. So how, like I need a quick question. So it's not a formal mentorship, but it is a resource that you can access at any given time. And all of you are welcome to sign up for that in order to help our pool to be bigger. So whether it is community, addiction, mental health, like Sally, palliative, different background. So we all sign up and go from there. Next slide, please.
Yes, thank you, Hoodoo. I'm seeing some comments there. Teresa is saying, what a resource, and Yvonne is saying this is a fabulous idea. And I think, Eric, when we were brainstorming about this idea, Eric made a good point, and it was, I believe that was you, Eric, talking about, it's different than the e-consult. That's an official way to have a specialist in the field respond to your official e-consultation question. And this would be more of, yes, we're going to receive information from our colleague that's going to help us in our decision making, but it's more along the lines of mentorship. And yes, it can include clinical conversations. I wonder if you want to add to that, Eric.
No, I think I think that's it, and I think that Yvonne is certainly happy to see that. It's a quick resource for somebody who's about to see or is seeing a client. They're in an area that maybe is not their expertise, but there's a list available for them of someone that they can turn to get an answer about or an impression of, just some sort of clinical guidance about how to maybe deal with that situation at the time.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say thank you to Catherine, Hoodoo, and Eric for presenting a very important piece of information that will help support each of us in as we build our, I want to call it colleagueship. I see our medical colleagues where they do a lot of mentorship amongst themselves, and I think they're good role models that way. I see physicians speaking with physicians and really supporting each other like a brotherhood or sisterhood, humanhood. And
humanhood.
Yeah, humanhood. And I see this opportunity of mentorship for us nurse practitioners to build a stronger capacity in amongst ourselves. So thank you for everyone for contributing to this presentation. And thank you for Kyle's work in the background there, working with our slide and keeping the conversation going by moving the slides along. I want to just share with you the next two topics for insiders webinar. In October, we're going to be having the PLP LAP presented by Daniel. I think it's timely because our membership is renewing in the fall, and all of us have the responsibility of being covered with the liability insurance. So I'm looking forward to Daniel just reviewing, and if you've heard this before, it's always a great review to make sure that we are covered legally and responsibly. And then in November, we are looking at virtual care. We are seeking some specialists to have maybe on a panel format and present the experience, especially during COVID. What has it been like for nurse practitioners to be out there and assess while doing virtual care? And we have some great experienced nurse practitioners who can contribute to this conversation. And yes, I'm hearing some thank yous on the chat, and you're welcome. Is there anything else that anybody on our panel wants to share at this moment before we close up?
Thanks, Sally. We do actually just have 2 more slides, or 3 more slides, I think. So we wanted to also mention another webinar that is coming up on September 15th. All RNAO members are encouraged, and we would be delighted if you could join us. The webinar will be on approaches to mental health and substance use for healthcare providers supporting Indigenous people and communities during COVID-19. And that webinar will take place from 6 to 7:30 Eastern Time. And we do have some really exciting speakers who are bringing a national perspective. And we think this would be great for really a wide range of practitioners to join us. And so we'd love to have you on if this piques your interest at all. So we wanted to share this webinar and the registration details for it as well. And the next slide we have is, I believe in regards, oh yeah, go ahead,
Before you
Imogene.
leave that slide, maybe go back. And it's just important to, it's Imogene, and I'm just so delighted to see the turnout and hear parts of this. I'm sorry I didn't make it all. The webinar, this is important to know. It's really from a Canadian perspective. So it is from 6 to 7:30 Central Daylight Time, and then 7 to 8:30 for Eastern. So it's a little bit later for us here. However, these webinars have been just phenomenal, and I think you'll find it useful if you're working with Indigenous populations, but also useful in looking at tools for mental health, period.
Thanks so much, Imogene. So lastly, one of the last things we wanted to talk about today was our NP Knowledge Exchange Symposium, which is coming up this November 23rd. It is going to be done virtually over Zoom, so you will not have to travel anywhere. We would absolutely love if you're able to join us. We host this Knowledge Exchange Symposium every year. It is free for our members, for our NP members. And really the topic this year is going to be envisioning a bright future for NPs in Ontario, Canada, and around the globe. And what we're going to be doing is showcasing some of that work that we have done with the NP Task Force Vision for Tomorrow. We did have a webinar about that task force last month. So some of you may already know a little bit about this work, but in case you weren't able to join us, the task force is a group of NPs working across all different sectors and settings in Ontario, from academia to policy, research, and clinical practice settings as well. And we have worked together over the past year and a half now to understand what some of the barriers to nurse practitioner practice are in Ontario and how we can really address those to make sure that we are providing really excellent care. And there are 8 recommendations in total that have targeted actions towards a variety of stakeholders, including government, OHTs, RNAO even, and some other academic institutions. We would love to share these recommendations with you in more detail at the webinar, and really just engage in a robust discussion with lots of healthcare leaders across the province and talk about how we can elevate the status of nurse practitioners. Imogene, do you have anything to add to that?
Not to this, but well, yes, I do. I always have stuff to add. This is going to be just a really exciting symposium, because it's really the first time we've revealed, if you will, the vision for tomorrow from the Nurse Practitioners Task Force. I think you'll find it a very positive and uplifting kind of a symposium about your role and where it's going and the significance of this role as we move through healthcare transformation, and how what's happened over COVID is really positioning NPs very well for the future. How NPs have really demonstrated, in fact, their indispensability, frankly, during this period.
Thanks so much, Imogene. Our last slide is the thank you and wrap up, but just before, there's one more thing Beth reminded me of. Thanks so much, Beth. So we wanted to talk quickly about a document that RNAO, with input from nurse practitioner stakeholders, has provided a consultation on with the Center for Excellence Practice, and it's in regards to Wave 2 planning for COVID and preparation for the influenza season coming up this fall. So the document is guidance to help nurse practitioners, primary care providers really prepare for this next wave in influenza and COVID-19. It has a lot of really great resources. And Kyle, if you're able to share the link to the document,
yeah,
we for sure think, thank you so much. We think it would be super helpful for you guys to check out and to share among your networks as well. And with that, I think I will pass it over to Beth quickly, because she really is our NP expert for social media. I know she's posted a little bit about the private Facebook group. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Beth?
Oh, this was just such an excellent webinar. Thanks, everybody. And I just want to reach out once in person because I've been typing a lot. And if anybody is not already part of our private NPIG Facebook group, simply go to Facebook and type in nurse practitioner interest group, and it's got a white background, and there's a series of 4 private questions to answer, and then I'll let you in. And it's that simple. So we really want a lot of dialogue. This is our private Facebook group, and we can ask anything. And all of the NPIG executive is, and it's for NPs that are in any discipline, and as well students that are in the NP program as well.
The other thing I would add to that, Beth, is that there is that second bullet about joining the conversation with NPIG _ RNAO and RNAO on Twitter. If you enjoyed this webinar, tweet about it. Hopefully some of you took pictures of some of the slides. Tweet about it, just to get the conversation going, especially about the importance of mentoring for successful role transition, and the importance also of seasoned NPs being in that mentor role. It really is a way to boost your own career and give back as well.
Thank you, Irma Jean. I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you so much for everyone for joining, and please pass on the information to our colleagues to join us for further insiders in the future. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining.